Okay, is that on?
Test. Say.
Test, test, test. A,
might
B,
turn it up a
C,
little-
D,
I might
E,
turn it
F,
up a
G.
little when I get
Okay,
up there.
I'm going to turn.
Okay, I hate to interrupt the conversations. Okay, so I have the honor of introducing our speaker today. Sue is, I'm going to say finally, a dear friend of mine because I have known who Sue is for a long time, but I didn't know her personally. So I wanted to. No, I don't know. That's you. I don't know. I wanted to because I knew about her through so many amazing people. And finally, a few years ago, Sue shows up to serve at the care center in the same room that I serve in. And I felt like this is my opportunity to get to know her. And we kind of hit it off, right? Yeah. It's kind of chaos. Some of it we cause. We give Nick a really hard time all the time. And now Mercy gets to be a part of the crazy with us. But to say that it was worth the wait to get to know Sue is 100% true. She loves women so well. She sees individuals for who they are and not their circumstances, and that is something that we desperately need in this world, need more of. And so the fact that she cares about me and knows me is a true honor in my life. So I'm going to pray for Sue, and then she's going to share part of her amazing story that God has given her. Dear Lord, I just thank you so much for Sue. I thank you for the life that you've given her. I thank you for the courage that she has to share her story, even the difficult parts. And I thank you, Lord, for the heart that she has for your people. So I pray, Lord, that as she is sharing with us this morning, that your spirit will speak through her and that we all have something individual to take away from what she's going to share today. Amen.
Now. Okay. Wow. A little kickback there. Well, Kara told me that I should share a bit of my story. So, per the drama team, you're going to get my life in a bag via the screen behind me. So, we're going to go through some pictures first. That's the book that I wrote. That's my lovely mother, my older brother, and myself. Just in case you want to know how old I was. It just depends on where the shipping is going. Noblesville, dag, I'm 26. Alaska, the moon, and we're getting closer. All right, the one of the very dapper couple would be my grandparents on my dad's side. The lovely woman in the white gown is my mother. The couple leaning backwards is on their honeymoon, and if they only knew what kind of marriage and life they'd had, they would have realized that that's my parents. And then the little beautiful white-haired gal is the grandmother we adopted. That's my brother Michael and myself on her lap and our dog Tyann. And that's my older brother. He has 3 children. That's Gracie in the middle, and him giving her a kiss, and us at the pool. There's my mother and my brother's first child. That's Jeremiah. And that's my dad, and that's Nicholas. And then that's my Noah. Oh, I adore my Noah. That's my brother's son, his girlfriend. I forgot her name. I was going to text him and ask, but I thought, no, just let it ride, Sue. So nobody needs to. Like, I'm giving a talk tomorrow. Are you still dating that beautiful? Anyways. And that was me and him at his high school graduation. That's 10 years ago. Don't I look so young? Okay, you can keep going, Kara. All right, my Lindy, I love my Lindy. I got the privilege of getting to be next to her in Mary Poppins. The middle photograph is just what happens on that bridge when they always take the weirdest pictures. I will say that I could edge my choreography just to my left, that I could smack Molly in the face just doing my choreo. Just fun things you do. And then the top one is I've written several shows for Grace Kids Camp. That was Galaxy Quest, the original version with R2-D2 and some other fun things out of Star Wars. My favorite part of that was I wrote a gravity scene, so every actor on stage had to lay on the floor and do their lines. Just because I wrote it that way and I wanted to watch and giggle. And then the bottom picture is when Amy Christie was in Mary Poppins. That's just the crew there. I was in Father of the Bride. There's my bride, my girl. And of course, I don't know, Heather Dundor. She's just a nut up there in the green. And then the little girl in the wheelchair. I did Little Mermaid in a wheelchair. I'll explain in a minute. But so afterwards, this little one just rolled up next to me and said, I want to be an actor. When I grow up, I'm like, you roll. I mean, we can do it. So I was very humbled by that, and it was cool. Not always cool. Now, this is why, first of all, I hate that costume. Everyone thought it was so pretty. Who puts, whatever, we don't have time. The other one is the green dragon is my mother, so now you understand me, don't you? That is my mother going to a Halloween party with her pals that she worked with. That is a costume I did wear without the dragon helmet in a children's show I was in. So, and that's my beautiful mom and me. All right, I'm gonna jump into my life story. I've written it down, so hopefully I won't either get lost or talk too long, maybe both. All right, deep breath. So my crutches story, the quick version. In my 40s, my undiagnosed ankle and heel problem after 5 surgeries still left me in chronic physical pain. In February 21, adding severe sciatic pain meant the only way I could walk was with crutches. In August of 21, still on crutches, sciatic pain gone, and so unfortunately was my 20-year position as a preschool teacher. But fortunately, disability was awarded in May of 22. So that's the story of the physical pain. So now we're gonna do the emotional pain. I call my life a beautiful disaster. My grandparents, all 4, were gone by the time I arrived. My mom was an only child when she was 6 weeks old when her mom died. Her father, an alcoholic, did not play a role in her life. Her aunt raised her with her second husband, a lot of divorce on my mom's side, in the 30s and the 40s, if you can imagine, but that's our family. My dad, also an only child, his dad died 6 months before my parents got married. His mom died 10 days before my parents got married, and somewhere in that, his dog died. This was a man who was spoiled by 3 elderly aunts and parents, and then it was just gone. And I really don't believe my dad ever recovered. To cope with his heartache, by 21, this all happened by the time he was 21 years old, he used alcohol to self-medicate his deep depression and deep pain. We feared him when he was drinking. He was verbally abusive and on a few occasions physically abusive, but he was kind and funny and could tell the best stories when he wasn't drinking. Because of my mom's upbringing, it had been so tough. She had very low self-esteem, didn't think she could provide for us, which was kind of ironic because my dad's business went bankrupt in the late 70s. Our family lost everything, even our only home I'd ever known. But the beautiful part of my life is my mom. She became a believer at 33. Her faith was real, tested, and powerful. She never judged anyone because she'd lived quite a life before her conversion. She was sweet, funny, kind, and deeply loved kids. She was that neighborhood mom. But when I was 22, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Devastated, she believed God would heal her. She would tell everyone, God's healing me, God's healing me. She bravely fought, never ever lost her faith, never becoming bitter. Her cancer returned as stomach cancer in the fall of '86. My older brother, 4 years older, he's in the Navy. My dad is still in a dysfunctional haze, so neither one of them are ever living in the real world. They were no help. So at 23, I was her primary caregiver. She wanted to die at home, and it was just she and I battling this horrible disease. I felt like I completely let her down when we could no longer care for her at home. Thankfully, she only lasted 36 hours in the hospital, and then she went home to a hero's welcome. No more tears in heaven, and God did heal her, just on the other side. My dad did not recover from losing my mom, so at 25, I moved in with a family I barely knew, just trying to kind of start my life. I begged my dad to find work. He had been unemployed since we lost our home. He did end up being homeless for 5 years. My brother's still in the Navy, so I was the one who went looking downtown on the streets when I lost touch with him. So at 25, I had lost everything I knew. My mom, she was my best friend. My best friend was gone. My dad, whom I felt responsible for, was homeless. He did end up making it into a homeless shelter for a couple years. Eventually, he found a job and a place to live. And God gave us a beautiful month with my dad in a wonderful hospice center before he died of cancer in 2003. So story so far is kind of enough. I'm sure you wish we'd transition, but we're still going to go downhill a bit. My brother's was a teenage pregnancy. That son, whom I helped raise, because I was only 15 years his senior, in 94, he was in a horrific automobile accident at 17. And several times we thought we were going to lose him, 8 days in a coma, months of recovery, and he did suffer brain damage that limits him today. My brother met someone while in the Navy. They married. They had a little boy, Nicholas. That's the little dude in the picture. And in May, they had another one on the way, another little boy. But in 1996, Nicholas was 2.5. He was at a home daycare. The unthinkable, he got out of a fenced yard. The caregivers inside thought he was outside. The caregivers outside thought he was inside. Nicholas toddled to a rented, unoccupied property with a full pool, without a fence, and fell in. 15 minutes went by before they found him. The only comfort that our family has is we do know we will see him again. And we know Nicholas and my mom are together. Now, Noah was born 7 months later. Mike and his wife had another baby girl called Grace. And then we found out Grace had autism when she reached her 2nd birthday. Mike's marriage dissolved under all the stress. His ex met up with her high school boyfriend. And in 2005, this just wrecked me, but I can see now how God was working. She moved both kids to New York City to begin her new life. It just killed me. And my brothers really never recovered either. And I don't tell my story often. It sounds depressing. But if I were to tell you all the times that God has met me in my sorrow and helped me to hold on, well, it would fill the pages of a book. And I know he has given me the grace to survive my beautiful disaster for a reason. And he's given me, that's my life verse, which I'll explain later. He's given me this little amazing, beautiful, she likes to watch when, I'm home. That's actually Marin singing in the one picture. She loves me to death, which you'll see in the next. Yeah, we're just pals. She's so kind and gentle and wonderful, until she isn't. Yeah, she's got a mind of her own. But we are buddies, and no matter what she's doing, she definitely is, for me, often a giggle and a laugh that I feel God's presence. Now, this is a video, and one of the reasons I wanted this video, because my life verse talks about, I patiently waited for the Lord. We're going to be patient and wait for Casey, but he turned to me and heard my cry, lifted me out of my pit of despair, out of the mud and the mire. He set my feet on solid ground and steadied me. As I walked along, he's given me a new song, a hymn of praise. Many will see and fear what he's done and be amazed and put their trust in the Lord. Are you patiently waiting? What is going to happen? This is my life playing with this cat at home. Makes complete sense, doesn't it? Here's the toy. Here's your little tunnel. What is keeping you, dude? Let's go. Are you on the edge of your seat yet? There she goes. Wait, it gets better. Wait, look. You can see. Look what you'll see her tail. We're still playing. She doesn't like, I don't know, cats are like, she's like, okay, mommy, where is it? And then there's a pop of the tail. There it is. It's like, all right, I am in here getting this. It's all good. And she really does bring a tremendous amount of makeup. She's going to pop out real quick.
That's right, Casey.
That's actually a mild version of her antics. So if sometime you want to see the videos, I'm a cat mom. I will say kid, like, I don't know, a teenager or something, we were taking pictures and she was like, are you one of those people that just has your phone full of pictures of your cat? And I was like, so? I was not a happy person. All right, well, I did write a book in 2016, and when I was praying over what God wanted me to share today, I felt there might be a bit from the book with just some added thoughts that might be a blessing to you all. So this is called Chapter 1, Her Faith Worth Having. More than once, she was seen kneeling by her bed, praying, this woman of faith. Her circumstances were difficult, to say the least. She and her husband of over 20 years had lost everything they owned. Their land in Colorado, gone. A 10-year-old family business, gone. Their house, gone. Her husband had made poor business decisions, and in an attempt to keep his business afloat, he risked everything, even their home. Love had roamed the halls of this 3-bedroom ranch as she raised her children, this warm, memory-filled home where she planned to grow old with her husband, read books to her grandchildren, and gather for each family celebration, gone. Now defeated, depressed, and broken, her husband could not find his way out. He seemed resigned to complete failure. He sat in his favorite chair. He sat, literally, doing nothing. Well, she'd been underemployed her entire life, a cafeteria worker, a clerk in a toy department, and now a receptionist at a beauty salon. She worked so hard, yet each week brought home very little. After years of terrible financial stress and insecurity, suddenly she was the only breadwinner. It had been a brutal 5 years, but never bitterness. Crying out, yes, sadness, of course, even frustration at the tough road they were now traveling, but never, ever bitterness. Why? She simply stood on her knees, living out her faith that seemed granite strong. She had what I call a faith worth having. She had the ability to be her best when life was at its worst. I still marvel at the stories of her impact on others due to her unbelievable, amazing faith. In the midst of extremely hard life circumstances, she was living her best possible life. She could be seen calmly kneeling in reverence to her loving God. She would regularly pour out her heart to her one and only, the one who truly mattered. Someone looking from the outside might have questioned, where is this God she loves so deeply? And it would have been easy to say she'd been betrayed, or the very least forgotten, left to her own devices to fend for herself during these truly lean and difficult times. She just stood firm in her faith, believing God was near. She knelt calmly, serenely, trusting during the worst of times. She trusted her precious Savior to take care of her, and in a daring leap of faith, trusted God with those closest to her heart, those she loved so deeply, those she would live or die for, her family. Who's got a faith like that? Who doesn't want a faith like that? Think of someone you know who has endured the heartache with a strong, deep, sweet, real, never giving up on God, honest about the pain and the hurt, faith. That's someone battered by life's worst, standing on their knees, holding onto the rock that never moves. That's what I call a faith worth having. There's a gritty faith that pulls people through the worst circumstances. There's a remarkable, outstanding faith that sustains people for decades. There's a quiet faith that endures, pushes forward, never faltering. And there's a daring faith that leaps into the unknown, unafraid of the consequences or cost. Who wouldn't want a gritty, remarkable, astounding, quiet, daring, leaping faith? Does every Christian automatically have a faith worth having? Have you witnessed those whose faith was inauthentic? Their words and actions did not match. They could talk big a game, but they didn't live out God's inside-out, upside-down kingdom. And as you listened and looked on, something didn't ring true. All kinds of faith cross our paths daily. There's a faith lived out when every loved one is happy, healthy, home by 11. They freely give what costs them very little, believing God has blessed them with this wealth as a kind of spiritual seal of approval. If problems come, they pave over the hurt and heartache by stuffing it down, attempting to rewrite history while creating their own new version of their happy, healthy future. Some live by a faith combo called Jesus and fill in the blank. Jesus and whatever makes me successful are the pillars of their faith. It's an incredibly cynical view would be to say they're simply covering all the bases, feathering every nest, not willing to trust or surrender or release. They live out a half-hearted, never far from themselves, untested small faith. Others can live out an us versus them Christian faith. They live a faith that only interacts with other believers, They use a spiritual blockade. They become the gatekeepers, only letting in what they deem safe. Unfortunately, they built gauzy fences, delicate walls, and paper-thin barricades. They exist in a faux fantasy fortress. They've got the answers, if only others would listen. They know the way, if only others would follow. They firmly believe if others would look like us, talk like us, sing like us, worship like us, they too could have faith like us and be blessed by us. But resting on an untested faith or an add-on faith or a blockade faith isn't a faith worth having. Can we honestly see us versus others making an impact on his inside-out, upside-down kingdom and the others who are the others? If you and I live by the truth, there but the grace of God go I, then seriously, we're all just one decision from tumbling in to other status. We want to make sense of all the suffering. We live in perpetual motion, trying to make everyone happy. We believe if we can create a holy bubble wrap or create some kind of spiritual buffer zone to keep the tragic stuff away from us and away from our loved ones. But most of us hope and pray if tragedy does strike, we'll hold up well. Many of us struggle to balance our faith life with our everyday life, and we kind of assume that they're separate. We create the combo platter of faith, or we never edge out of our fortified us versus them world. Puny, scrawny, frail, tired, pathetic faith? Who wants that kind of faith? Most of us are limping along, trying to live out our faith in triumph, but we just can't. We're stumbling and struggling, and we're overwhelmed. And when we fail, we determine to simply work harder at our faith. When the unbelievable happens, when the hard times do hit, a little stunned and almost in disbelief, we ask, why do bad things happen to good people? Why did this happen to me and mine? Life's supposed to be challenging, but not bone-crushing hard. When it gets dark and thick and heavy and sadness feels like deep waters, we may become angry with God for allowing this unrelenting pain, and our feelings are not out of line. Your feelings are not out of line. Sometimes our responses are. We pull in, we blame out, we complain. Rejecting God's right to take us through whatever he chooses can also cause us to run away from him and his people and his peace. Jesus, the author of a faith worth having, told us, give way to your broken heart. Cry out and weep. It's okay. Moan, lament, whimper, whine, even shriek out in pain. And on my faith journey, on the advice of my counselor, my second round of counseling, she said that I didn't need to fear my feelings. She encouraged me to let them out. I was terrified that if I let them come up and out, they would never stop. The dark, scary, shameful secrets, along with the deep brokenness I was carrying, even though we'd been working on making right sense out of them for weeks, I feared they would completely overwhelm me. And an important part of my faith story is this came after my second round of counseling. I'd spent over a year before that taking to part the tragic loss of my mother, my best friend, the hero of my faith, who a month before her homegoing had just turned 53. I'd worked through my guilt that she didn't die at home, which was her dying request, just 36, only 36 hours in the hospital. She only spent 36 hours compared to the year and a half of unspeakable suffering. 36 hours wasn't something a 24-year-old should use to punish herself for the rest of her life. Now, second round of counseling, to walk through the power of the secrets, the unraveling cruel lies and despicable misunderstandings that had led to why, as a victim, I did not need to carry the excruciating, ridiculously heavy burden of feeling it had all been my fault. Being at my most vulnerable, being so young and inexperienced, had literally put a huge target on my back, which left me unable to make right decisions out of my life. I stood at the precipice of letting out years of pain that had locked up inside the dark places I kept in deep inside myself. Again, I protested. What if I cry, more realistic, wail, and can't stop? She gave me some concrete ways to calm myself down, and finally she said, if you really get in a crisis, you can call me. Oh, I'd love to say that I calmly went in with my Bible on one side and Kleenex on the other. But no, I barely made it inside my apartment, closed the door and crumpled to the floor and began to wail and wail. And I stopped. It felt like the world had been lifted off my shoulders. So after our authentic cries are over, once our souls have unloaded, then we're called to free fall into Jesus' ever-present arms. We often wrestle, even repel against crying out in pain. Tragedy and heartache can move us closer to freedom and joy, not further away. Fight, win, heal the broken are not the only battle cries we want to follow. No one wants their motivational poster to read, wail, weep uncontrollably, freak out, then free fall. Can I ask you what keeps you and I from gritty, remarkable, outstanding, quiet, daring, leaping into the unknown faith? Maybe it's acknowledging our untested combo platter, our us versus others, blinded by our excuses, false sense of security, faith life. Maybe that's a good place to start. Might be another good place to start. Our obsession with control. But until we can see what's locking us up, keeping us from being our best when life's at its worst, we're going to stay stuck with the puny, scrawny, frail, tired, pathetic faith. Full disclosure, I have tried every type of faith that I just described. I put each one on. Some felt cozy, filling my heart with a sense of false security. Some felt restrictive. I instinctively knew something was wrong. Some made me feel like a spiritual superstar, yet I was missing that key ingredient, the fuel that propels a faithful follower. I was missing humility. I determined my faith combos, my lists, my us versus others was getting in my way. And realizing my faith was not launching me into his inside-out, upside-down kingdom, my heart began to hunger and thirst for a faith worth having. So I began my adventure to find a gritty, remarkable, outstanding, quiet, daring, leaping faith, my mother's faith. I'm just finishing up my time here. I've just got a few more words that I hope will encourage you. And I've got cotton mouth, so forgive me while I drink some water. I hope to encourage you all. Having been a part of this church for over 20 years, I was shocked at what I didn't know about the church. And as a church, we've been through a lot. And I'd say the last 7 years were extremely tough. Throw in a global pandemic, and the times were excruciating, looking as if we might not make it. But as I look over this room, I see the best Grace has to offer. You are some of the all-in people, and I understand best through pictures and stories. So if Grace were a person, the head is our amazing commitment to outstanding Bible teacher, Barry Russell's through scriptures, humbling with compassion. All the sermons hold God's words with integrity and unending curiosity. So we'll picture a person of Grace, and the head is our Bible teaching. Now the Broadway shows, that's the hands. That's what we're inviting other in to come in, especially the shows where we had the public school buses come to our parking lot on a cold October's day to watch a Broadway version of Beauty and the Beast. So we're inviting people in. It's an easy ask for family and friends to come. As Tim Ayer famously said, we need those shows to bring joy, and Jesus is all about joy. The other hand at Grace reaches up, lifting others by providing food and English classes and backpacks and shoes and one-on-one coaching to sustainability. We know the stories of how much the Care Center does. A community fair friend I heard say, I haven't been able to afford a haircut in 8 years. Those are the ones that just bring tears. Tears begin to flow down your face. Every weekend, our heart's on display through worship and when we gather as a family, amazing worship, not necessarily just a Christian rock band, but diverse in every way, like God's kingdom, 17 to 70, leading us in his praise and his promises and his provisions. And then the feet, well, that's the organizational ministries that keep us in motion, the operational side. Computers, maintenance, give a shout out to Jason. Meetings about finances, governing things, and the joys and challenges of keeping this giant, beautiful building running. And then there's the head. So there's the head, heart, her hands, and feet. But I can honestly say, without you all, it falls apart. So what I see represented in this room, my friends, you are the backbone of this church. And amazing as those other parts are, they fail and fall apart without you. You don't fly a nanny across the hushed crowd, nor do you give away with dignity the very essentials that so many need to survive. You're not playing drums or singing out God's praises with the fog-lit light, glowing colors, covering 8 beautiful singers, leading us each Sundays. You're not crunching numbers or painting parking lines. Nope. But without you, this isn't going on. You're the backbone here at Grace. You give this place structure and shape. You support the rest of the church. You protect the Holy Spirit's work like a backbone protects the spine. You allow the rest of this body to move. I can't imagine trying to cobble together, as great as they are, the Broadway shows, the Care Center, the great teaching, the awesome music, and the praise. Mom's life is essential for keeping Grace upright while supporting and protecting the Holy Spirit's influence over us all. This backbone allows flexibility to meet many different spiritual needs of all kinds of folks who call Grace home. Without all of you who make up Mom's life, Grace Church would fall apart, flapping like a jellyfish or a squishy giant without a backbone. Your service, your time, your energy, your heart creates flexibility, supports, and protects Grace. Mom's life serves as one of the primary structural supports of this church. You're the backbone of this body. Without you, things fall apart. You may not be front and center getting lots of attention, but I know with all of my heart that Jesus sees you. He takes note of the countless hours behind the scenes that are invisible to most everyone else. In his upside-down kingdom, the unseen are those carrying the weight critical to keeping us afloat, steaming toward his vision of a beautiful, unique, other-centered, loving family we call Grace Church. You're the close relationship-building, real-life giving, and heart-strengthening community that many of us just call family. And I am confident when I speak to the staff and the leaders that I can say, can't imagine Grace Church without you. There's no better calling than to lay down your life for your friends. So as the backbone of this church, I hope you know you're making it possible to do all that God is accomplishing here at Grace. Thank you. Oh, sure.
Thank you, Sue. So you may notice on your tables there is a copy of Sue's book, which is the pictures up here, Standing on Your Knees, A Faith Worth Having, and Sue read part of her book. So this is going to go home with one person in each group, and you can pass it around, share, take turns, and it's also available on Amazon if anybody wants their own copy as well. But the person who gets to take this book home for themselves is the one whose birthday is closest to today. I don't even know what day it is. February 27th, right? Yeah, February 27th. So think about this, whether it's before or after. You're going to have to figure it out because I don't know everybody's birthday. But happy birthday, July. It's not July. I don't think that's it. So figure it out in your group. Take turns reading Sue's book and enjoying. And enjoy your time in small group. And will you all help me thank Sue again for being here today?